all of those years studying mathematics at school, all of that adding up, subtraction, division, algebra, I knew it would come in handy one day. Yes, math in school was hard, but it's prepared me for this day, being able to calculate lethal in a Hearthstone game. Oh yeah, and needing a bit of positive RNG at the same time, not discarding that second Soulfire is always helpful. But yeah, the power of Healing Zoolock, ladies and gentlemen. I thought it would be worth revisiting this deck on my little journey to rank 2 on the standard mode ladder. So I've already published one video, and in that video I sort of doubted the power of this deck. I thought, really, this deck can win games on the current ladder? And yeah, I was proven wrong. The deck was strong, it won me quite a lot of games. And so I thought, okay, let's revisit it, let's see how far we can go. And I was able to get to rank 2. The games are quick, the games are fun, they are refreshing. To be honest, you know, I miss playing Zoolock. The last time I think I played it properly on the ladder must have been at least a year or 2 years ago, so to see it come back with a resurgence, it's really a positive thing. It adds variety to the meta. The meta's already really diverse, so I think, you know, as we head to the end of the Witchwood expansion, before the next expansion arrives, I do think the meta is in a good place. I mean, it's harder to win games now, because there are so many diverse decks, but that does pose a bit more of a challenge, and I think that's a good thing for Hearthstone. Okay, now, against a Shaman here, and he is an even Shaman. He has the 1-cost hero power. You know, 1-cost hero power, that's pretty useful. His turn 1, it actually allowed him to do something. In the past, you know, you'd often pass turn 1 and then maybe you'd hero power on 2, but he was able to hero power on 1, that was pretty good for him. But a bit of a slow start. And I'm going to take full advantage of that. I'm just going to load up the board. Now, there is decision making in this deck. Maybe instead of playing my taunt, maybe I should have tapped and looked for a healing based card that can help activate my ghoul. Okay, he's starting to claw his way back onto the board, getting a bit more of a foothold. So, what can I do here? We can play our taunts, which does provide a little bit of a roadblock. Or I can tap, but what does that do? That doesn't do anything much, potentially. I mean, I could find a Voodoo Doctor and then play the Ghoul, potentially, if I tapped, but this is much better. Next turn, we have Fungalmancer, and we can buff up some stuff on our board. This is a board-centric game, at least for the first half of it. You do have to make the trades, keep control of the board. If Healing Zoolock loses control of the board, I mean, you do have opportunities to refill. If you're able to heal your face and then play, let's say, 2 ghouls, because, of course, they cost nothing when you heal. There are ways of coming back, but generally speaking, it is really hard to get back into the game. And Sea Giant is not what you want to see. Leroy, on the other hand, is useful to have for a bit later. So, to what extent now do we trade? And to what extent do we go face? I see Leroy in my hand and I think, okay, if I can do a lot of face damage, I could set up a Leroy lethal very, very soon. And that's what I'm going to do. This goes against my instincts. Usually, I'd be trading here. I'd either be killing the Sea Giant, or I'd be getting value trades on the other 2 minions. That's just my mindset with Hearthstone. I take on board a more sort of mid-range / control mindset. But here, I'm looking at Leroy, and I'm thinking, ooh, maybe I can get lethal soon. But yeah, there's the consequence of leaving stuff up on the board. He was able to buff up that totem and get his own value trades. And now I'm left with very little. But Despicable Dreadlord here, so very, very good. You sort of look at the inclusion of this card in the deck and you actually wonder why it's in here. Because it's quite expensive, right? It costs 5. It's not cheap. Zoolocks excel at playing cheap minions and getting stuff down wide on the board. So why play Despicable Dreadlord? Well, it can clear minions, right? It can clear injured minions. Alternatively, if there are a lot of paladins on the ladder, it can clear paladins. That's a good thing. Okay, just going for board presence here. The Void Ripper does very little, but that's fine. We've got three attack minions on the board. I'm eyeing up the Leroy, I'm eyeing up the Soulfire. Of course, Leroy and Soulfire in the hand at the same time is 10 damage. Just need to get the ordering correct. Oh, and what do you know? It's lethal. As long as we play Leroy first, Soulfire second. Oh, sneaking a cheeky tap, and we're good. And that is precise lethal. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the power of Soulfire. Wasn't convinced early on because of its discard effect, but hey, it's worked out pretty well for me. And speaking of working out pretty well, that's a Keleseth in the opening hand. That could just be game winning. That could just be game winning. Now, I'm looking at this Light Warden and I'm thinking, do I develop it? No, it's probably going to die to a backstab. This is fine. We have the Keleseth on 2. We can consider developing the Light Warden and maybe something else that we draw on 3. Well, Leroy and Soulfire in the hand again at the same time. Maybe that will get us lethal again. But this is Kingsbane Rogue, and we need to kill it quickly, because once they find Leeching Poison and they buff up that dagger, you basically lose the game. The dagger buffs are too much to deal with. With the healing effect, they just kill your minions and hit at the same time, and then start whacking your face. And we are a deck that taps. You know, we lose health, we sacrifice health for the benefit of gaining cards. So by the time his dagger gets buffed up substantially, the chances are we'll be at quite a low health total anyway and are at risk of dying. So what we need to do is kill him as quickly as possible. Or her, I don't know.
In the light's name.
And one way of speeding up the process of killing my opponent is to play Light Warden and hope it can't be dealt with. But not just a Light Warden, we play the Ghoul as well, and now we have a incredibly substantial board presence. We're emptying out our hand, and now he has to find a way to clear this board. Because if he doesn't, we have a Leroy Soulfire combo that's going to be smashing his face very shortly. There it is.
Undead, tell no tale.
No Leeching Poison. That's what we like to see. There's 10 damage on board. We don't have the mana to play Leroy Soulfire. Otherwise that would have been lethal. So we just go what? And actually at this rate we may not even need the Soulfire. Just Leroy alone. Or actually we may need neither of them. If he can't clear stuff, if he can't clear everything, he's screwed. What's he gonna do? Vanish? Fan of Knives? Okay, that doesn't do anything. That doesn't do anything. Oh, that does something. Doomerang. Oh, you're still dead. yeah, turns out that you just need either Leroy or Soulfire, not both. Feels good. Soulfire gets another lethal. So, pretty sweet victory there. Marching forward on the ladder. This time as Mecha Jiraxis, because yeah, I did buy the expansion bundle. Hopefully, it's money well spent. I'm very excited about the new expansion. The resurgence of mechs is really something that's I think overdue. I remember Goblins vs Gnomes, and I had a lot of fun playing mech decks. So, particularly on the wild mode ladder, if that's going to lead to more mechs being played, mech decks coming back, then I'm very excited. So this is an odd rogue, and we are in a good position here because we're starting to buff up our Light Warden, and we're going to get a bit more healing next turn, which means that it's going to continue to grow. He's going to be spending his time trying to remove it. Hopefully he'll end up face tanking it, or wasting cards trying to remove it. I'm actually going to value trade here because I'm going to hope that he can't get through my taunt and that there's no fan of knives. Ooh, Van Cleef, 6/6. Oh, that's interesting. So what can we do here? We can kill the Van Cleef. You know what I'm going for? I'm going to go for maximum healing. That's why I traded. We kill the Van. We heal up first, and then we Soulfire the Van Cleef, and then trade in the 2/1, and it's all good. That's 7 attack to his face. If he can't find a way to get through this taunt that's protecting the Light Warden, this is going to be game over very, very quickly. Comparing this deck to traditional Zoolock decks, the power of the Light Warden here, when it's buffed up like this, you do end up ending games much quicker than normal. And look, he's just had to tank 7, so he essentially he'd taken 14 when that thing was buffed up. That's insane. And now we've put him on the back foot massively. If we draw into Leroy, if we draw into Soulfire, another Soulfire, oh look, it's Keleseth. I mean, it's late in the game, but the buff is probably going to help if the rogue can survive into the next turn. Nope. Okay. And that is rank 2 with Healing Zoolock. Okay, so Healing Zoolock got me to rank 2. Strong deck? Really, really strong deck. After this video, I ended up, after the games that I played in this video, I should say, I ended up playing the Doomguard version, which actually succeeded in getting me to rank 1. Unfortunately, I didn't record any of those games because I was playing them on my phone whilst travelling to work on the train. And those of you that follow me on Twitter will know that I have bad luck on trains. A friend of mine calls it train RNG. Shout out to Sam Knows HS, who is often giving me advice about playing Hearthstone on trains on your mobile phone. In other words, try to avoid the tunnels. That is always a good plan, because when you go into a tunnel, you lose your signal and you lose your game. And I have this terrible habit of playing ranked games on my phone whilst travelling. Sam is always trying to discourage me from doing that. He always says I should be playing casual. But in the last week or so, I was playing the Doomguard version of Healing Zoolock, and I will put the deck code for that in the comments section as well. But I was playing the Doomguard version just for a change, and it got me from rank 2 to rank 1 on the standard mode ladder. So regardless of whether you use this version or the Doomguard version, Healing Zoolock works. It absolutely works. It's made a believer out of me, and certainly as we head into the next season, the August season, maybe just before the expansion is released, I will certainly be playing Healing Zoolock to get me through the standard mode ladder. The great thing about this deck is it is somewhat cheap. Yes, there are a couple of legendaries in the deck. There is Keleseth in the deck. There is Leroy in the deck. Leroy, I would argue, is quite essential, but he's an older Hearthstone card. He's from the classic set, so quite a few of you are probably likely to have Leroy, hopefully in your collections. Keleseth is good, but I wouldn't necessarily call him essential to have. The reason for that is he's only good if you get him early. Sure, if you get him later in the game, the extra buffs, it does help, but there's a good chance that the game is pretty much over by that point. So quite often when I play Keleseth decks, I don't draw Keleseth early, so sometimes I look at him and I think, hey, what is the point of playing him? So yeah, if you don't have Keleseth in your collection, you can replace him with something else. He's not essential as such. But yeah, I'll put the deck code for this deck and the Doomguard version in the comments section so you guys can check it out and tell me what you think. So thank you very much for joining me again, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys all again very soon for more Hearthstone fun, either on standard or on the wild mode ladder.